Here we are. You just got the message. Through the first song, through the second song, did you hear it in there? Did you hear the metaphysics? Did you hear the call? Did you hear the truth in there? It is Easter Sunday. We are here for our awakening. Are you ready? Are you feeling it? Are you willing? I want to start with the words of an incredible man, a man that spent a lot of time writing and meditating, a common man, a man who had his own challenges and his own interesting nature, but he was a student of truth and light, and he was committed to looking at everywhere and anywhere he could for signs of spirit, for signs of soul growth, and for signs of truth. He is Unity's co-founder, Charles Fillmore. And I love sharing his exact words from time to time. Sometimes even when I share his words, I think, well, is that going to be a little radical for people? So anytime you want to push the envelope, just grab some Fillmore and throw it out. Or throw it in, I should say. So this is part of his Easter 1914 message. 1914, Charles Fillmore, the Son of Man. He says this in the beginning of his sermon. The life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is viewed and taught from two diametrically opposite standpoints. The first teaching, and the most popular, is that of Orthodox Christian Church, that of the Orthodox Christian Church, that Jesus was the Son of God, that he was crucified, died, was resurrected, ascended into heaven, and sits at the right hand of the Father as one of the judges of men, and that his death was to save our souls. The other teaching is that of the unorthodox Christians, the mystics, those who see from the standpoint of logic and truth. They teach that Jesus was crucified, that he died, that the life was put out of his body, but he had developed that power which resides in every man, woman, individual, that was me adding, until he resurrected that body. And then he refined that body until it was inviolable to the eye of the sense, but that it resides here in our midst, that it is the seed of new life for all of those who believe in it, that is who enter into it with faith, striving to make their consciousness its consciousness. Now, the two great viewpoints of these teachings, succinctly stated, is this. One teaches men how to die. The other teaches men how to live. Following this out, we would say to you, if you want to know how to die and go to heaven, take the first viewpoint. If you want to live and reap the rewards here and now of your efforts, study the second statement. I love that part where he says, one teaches us how to live and one teaches us how to die, how to be truly alive. Because this story, this Easter story, metaphysically, is not about the death of Jesus. It is about the full life of Jesus. And in fact, in traditional Christianity, we often carry around a cross, and that cross is a symbol of the death, right? It's a symbol of the human suffering, the parts of humanity that are so grotesque that we go to these lengths and we see it all the time. Do we need to look at that right now? Do we need to keep looking at it? Because we can see it on the news, can't we? We can see it all over. I mean, this my why that we were shared, that Nina shared with us this morning from Judy Estes, like, put me on my knees, break my heart open. Do we carry that moment around our necks? Do we carry that moment, the cross moment, and do we focus on that? Do we focus on what can feel horrible, what breaks us open, what brings us to our knees? Do we focus on that, or do we allow the resurrection to happen? What she talked about in that statement, in that testimonial, was the affirmation, was that even in the midst of this, I rise. Even in the midst of this, I will connect with what the master teacher demonstrated, which is that I am not limited by form and time, that my son is not limited by time and form. That's what the real teachings are, and that's what the real demonstration was. So do we go around focusing on the suffering? Because there's plenty of it today, right? There's plenty of it today. We can post the pictures, we can put it all up. Or can we keep standing in our principles, standing in our truth, and focus on the truth of life? That we are souls in unfoldment. That we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Yes, fully human in this form. Accepting that. Breathing into that, being authentic about that, feeling what we feel, allowing ourselves to break open, allowing ourselves to go through those tunnels and down those holes, but knowing that is not the fullness of us, knowing that we are guaranteed a resurrection moment, that is the metaphysical blueprint of life, that in fact, if we look at these keys, we think about the Easter story, and a lot of people celebrate it like it's a thing that happened. That it's a thing that happened a long time ago. It's a thing that happened 2,000 years ago. So let's get together and let's talk about a thing that happened 2,000 years ago to glorify God. I don't think that's what Jesus taught at all. Jesus demonstrated his own life path, his own resurrection, his own experience of what it's like to be a soul, to be a human in this time and form, and to show the world and to show yourself that you are more than what appears on the surface. That you are not limited, that nothing can be taken away from you, that when life seems to be taken out of your body, there's even sacred little hidden scriptures that say you can laugh at that. You can laugh at that because that's not the truth of who we are. Yes, it is difficult in the human form. Yes, the human form. I'm sure Mary, Jesus' mother, was in pain. I'm sure Mary Magdalene was in pain. I'm sure the disciples that loved Jesus were in pain of seeing, oh, he's gone. But then there was a reckoning. There was a showing, a revelation of saying, look, I'm here. I am here. And some didn't recognize him, but the ones that had the teachings enough, the ones that digested, that metabolized the teachings, they got it, and they were like, yes, he is. Yes, he is. He is here. Who has, you don't have to feel uncomfortable about this, so if you don't want to, don't do it. But if you do it, post it, comment, throw it into the chat, raise your hand or stand up or shout. Who has experienced that we exist beyond our form? That you have seen someone, you have felt someone you know. And those of you who don't, believe me, there is someone that you trust 110%. Someone that you trust completely and fully who has. And if you haven't for yourself, hold their hand and lean into it and let their faith be your faith. Bring your faith to them. It transforms how we live. It transforms how we live. It transforms how we suffer. It transforms how we experience all the stuff in life, the stuff that seems big, the stuff that seems that we can't overcome, it seems insurmountable, the stuff that just from a day-to-day basis drives us nuts. The stuff that we think like, oh, my life, or oh, this life, or this world, whatever it is. It takes everything and it turns it over, it flips it around when we live from this place of knowing. And sure, we're human. We fall asleep again. We forget again. We go into these spaces where it's like, I don't know that, or I'm acting like I don't know this truth. But the master teacher taught mindfulness. The master teacher was grounded. The master teacher taught application of principles. And when we step into that, we develop the witness self, the observer self, the divine self, the capital S self, and that self comes in this moment of struggle, this moment where you go, oh no, there is a crucifixion, that's real in the human condition. And there is a gentleness when the witness comes in. There is a support. There is a holy instant. There is a softness. There is a carrying that happens. And when we live life remembering this, when we live life with this practice, we are grounded. We are connected to our soul purpose in being alive here. We're connected to our soul power or our soul force, to all the support that is always available to us that sometimes we can't see because we're sitting there staring at the cross, saying, this is so real. So yes, in the human condition, it's real. Yes, all of the authentic feelings and emotions and experiences that go with that need to be accepted, need to be breathed into, need space. And then there's a remembrance that this too shall pass. There is the remembrance that for this I was made. There is a remembrance that I am more of this moment. There is a remembrance that there is infinite support. There is a remembrance that there is a resurrection, that no, maybe things can't look exactly like they did when, or whatever it is, you fill in the blank. But there is a remembrance of who and what we truly are, of what is eternal. This Easter story that so often gets chalked up to history really contains the keys and the insights to how we exist in the human condition with our spiritual knowing. Have you ever found yourself saying life needs to come with a manual? Right? Life needs to come with a manual. I mean, I think even babies, I think children, I think it was like there should be a class for that. There should be like right after you give birth, a manual should pop out. Right? That wasn't really appropriate to say, but that'll stick with you. It has popped out, friends. It's the Easter story. The Easter story shows us. It shows us the keys to our power and worth. It shows us about true leadership, true spiritual leadership, and what it looks like. It shows us about true power and what it looks like. You know, we forget, we go to sleep, we play the game that true power looks like a position, that it looks like having money, that it looks like having a platform, that it looks like holding a gun. We still play that game because we are forgetting who we are, because we are forgetting this message, we are forgetting this deep truth. This metaphysical Easter story has keys to our life, to what life really is. In Unity, we do not teach that there is an opposite to life. There is no opposite to life. Life simply is. There is birth and there is death, yes, birth and death of the body. But there is no opposite to life. This Easter story has keys to your impact. How often do we feel like we're not having an impact? How often do we look at what we're doing, either at this exact time and point, or for our whole lives and our history of our lives, or whatever it is, and we say, I'm not having an impact enough. Like, I don't feel important enough. I don't feel like I'm doing whatever it is. Whatever it is that you use, that I use to discredit your place on this planet and what you are about and who you are, to discredit that. This story has keys for us about our impact. You know, the master teacher got up and told one person to walk, one person that we heard about. Do you think that's the first time in history someone has been spiritually guided, spiritually supported to the point where someone says to them, get up and walk, and they get it? They metabolize what is happening. They metabolize the blueprint of their wholeness to the point where they just stand up and do something that they, before that second, could not do and thought was impossible. Do you think that was the first and only time that ever happened? No. But that time that it happened with one person. Get up and walk. It happened with one person. Get up and walk. But guess what? A multitude heard it. A multitude demonstrated it. You heard it. You've done it. People for 2,000 years have heard it and done it. And he said it to one person in one corner of the earth. on one day. Impact. We judge our impact incessantly, not understanding that the teachings of non-judgment can apply to that. Like, let go, it's not of your concern. That's the job of our source. The grand overall design, God, that's where the impact rolls. But the Easter teaching, the metaphysical story, teaches us about our impact. Because that moment, that Jesus moment of get up and walk, that was a moment of demonstration and metabolizing truth principles. That's why it lived on. But we go around from day to day, sometimes discrediting, sometimes not knowing our worth, sometimes not being grounded and centered in a moment, and not recognizing that when I show up in spirit, when I am prayed up, when I meditate, when I connect, when I wait for my guidance, when I listen, when I roll it around, when I let things be here, and then when I step forward as I am called, that there is a great metabolizing that happens. We are digesting, we are creating, and that is what has impact and that lasts. And we don't need to judge it. We just show up. This metaphysical Easter story has keys to, it's the blueprint of, it's the guidebook to understanding prayer, meditation, our temptations, our pain, and how that pain can just be pain that we are present to, or how it can turn into suffering. This story has a lot to teach about being seen, being understood and misunderstood, about moments of anger and how we act or don't act on that, about forgiveness, self-acceptance and self-love, about compassion, about oneness, about our divine worth, about non-attachment, about our crucifixion, about the need for tomb time, about renewal, healing, and quiet, about sin, which we know in unity comes from the archery term, missing the mark. I didn't get it on the bullseye. That's it. That's it. Not going to hell. Not a big deal, something that happens all the time. Not a big deal as far as who I am as a divine being. So that I can make a choice in every moment to go, I missed the mark there. That we can see the world around us and say, missing the mark, and pray for someone understanding their divine worth and the divine worth of the life around them. So that we can less frequently miss the mark. It has keys to our resurrection, to our true life. That's the value of the Easter story. Like, what in the human condition wasn't covered? Right? I mean, let's make a list, because we should write a book about it, because it'll probably be the next Bible. But what in that isn't covered? And there are keys in this sacred scripture, metaphysical keys for each one of us. Because nothing about the master teaching was having to do with just glorifying and praising one time and space. It was always turned back to you. It was always lifted up and offered out to you. It was always called forth in you. It was always asked of us to pay attention. In the book Atom Smashing Power of Mind, Charles Fillmore talks about the master teacher and how even when Jesus received what he said as illumination and stepped forth as a teacher, he found it difficult, Charles Fillmore says, to impress on others that he was anything more than one of the common people. He claimed immortality. He claimed that he was the Messiah they had been looking for, and they said, in effect, this is ridiculous. We know this man. He's Jesus, son of Mary and Joseph. We know him and his brothers and sisters. We've been brought up with him. It's absurd to think that this man can step right out of the common herd and become the Messiah. It's an adage that a great man is not without honor, Charles Fillmore says, except in his own country. From the physical viewpoint, he says, we are part of the common people, and we will not concede that one of our number can, by any possibility, become divine. The scriptures plainly teach that Jesus' own followers did not believe his claim that he was divine. They admitted that he was a great teacher. He taught truths that they accepted in the abstract, but they were not ready to concede that one of their number had attained the demonstration of truth. In a sort of wonderment, Jesus' disciples followed him, but they had not grasped the underlying truths that he was teaching, that the body is the temple of the living God, and that the man Jesus could lay it down or take it up. That he was going to make a demonstration over death that would satisfy not only them, but the whole world. That when he was ready, he was going up to Jerusalem to be crucified there. Even after Jesus demonstrated resurrection, the disciples found it hard to believe him. We're still finding it hard today. Because he taught that everything he was, you are. That everything he can do, we can do. He taught that yes, even if you think one of us, yes. And we're still doing it. Anytime on this planet we kill another human being, we are killing God. We're killing God consciousness. We are killing love. The fact that humans still do that, the fact that we don't walk around in each moment just bowing to each other as if we are in a monastery, whether or not people show up as seemingly deserving that bow or not is irrelevant. In fact, sometimes when they seem not to deserve it, are you getting this? I'm getting this. When they seem not to deserve it, sometimes that means we need to bow a little more slowly. And give them our prayer. Give them our knowing. Speak to the core of them. Speak to the truth of them rather than dance with the pain body. Have you thought about your Jesus moments? Have you thought about your crucifixions, your suffering, whatever it is that is up for you in this living Easter season? Your impact. Do you get it that you don't need it to be big as far as it looks? That you don't walk away from things because they don't look big? That it doesn't seem powerful, it doesn't seem like enough? We are taught a lot of things about who we are. The master teacher came and taught the truth of who we are. And it is still radical today. The real teachings, the true teachings, the deep teachings. It's still radical today. So can we say yes to our soul work? Can we say yes? Can we look at this metaphysical story, and when we see ourselves in it, like we're having a dream and we can see ourselves in any piece of this story, can we dive into it, whether it's our forgiveness work, whether it's our tomb time, whether it's our resurrection? Can we dive into it and recognize that this is part of the human and soul experience? And can we say bring it on rather than run kicking and screaming up to it? Like, rather than just dragging at the door of the tomb saying, let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out. Like, no, stay in there for 3 days. You don't want to come out yet. Believe me, you don't want to come out yet. Go kicking and screaming to the cross. No, 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 I don't want to get on the cross. I don't want to get on the cross. I don't want to get on the cross. Yes, cross out the error thinking. Let it go. Release attachment and allow the resurrection to come. You were made for this. Are we willing to do our soul work? Charles Fillmore, in a talk at the Unity Auditorium on December 11th, 1910, said the great universal spirit shows us step by step how to enter into dominion and the overcomer's joy. We do this through dealing with states of mind, constantly holding to the highest aspirations of the soul and eliminating by denial all that opposes the high ideal. In order to reach the goal, we must day by day let go of the old and take hold of the new. This is the crossing out of error and replacing it with truth. This is the crucifixion. So often, friends, we are faced with life and we feel we are not capable of it. We feel like we're not enough, we're not capable for the human condition. We don't know if we're capable of the spiritual condition, or we don't know how to pull it in so that we can feel it and let it really be true. We think that what's going on is too much, too heavy, that it may kill us, that maybe we just can't take it anymore, that we feel powerless. There's nothing I can do to change it. Someone else or something else has control over me. I'm sick and tired of what I see as far as corruption and arrogance and narcissism and all of this stuff. I'm so tired of seeing things that are out of alignment with principle. I'm so tired of all of this. I can't handle it. Why is it like this? Ugh, ugh, ugh. Fill in the blanks and bring it all in and say, bring it on, because for this I was made. I've talked to people who have been invited into doing some deep work, and I remember, or even just a conversation about something, a clearing conversation. I remember someone saying to me once, if I go there, I don't feel like I'll ever come out. Like I can't even go there. I can't even open that door. I can't even talk about it. I can't even start because I think I'll get lost. I don't think I'll ever come out. I won't come back. For this you were made. You will come back. Not the you that went in. Not the you that thinks it is the human condition. Not the you that's identified with a body and time and space and form. But you will rise. You will transform. You will receive your resurrection. I want to share a passage from, a passage like it's the Bible. Untamed by Glennon Doyle. If you don't know this author, she is a spitfire. She was talking about her recovery and her early days in recovery and transforming her life and moving out of feeling dead in the human condition and feeling limited and stuck and living by everyone else's rules and finding her soul, finding herself, and bringing oxygen to her life. And after she goes into sharing a story, she says this: in the past 18 years, I've learned two things about pain. First, I can feel everything and survive. Will you affirm that with me? I can feel everything and survive. One more time. I can feel everything and survive. She said, what I thought would kill me didn't. Every time I said to myself, I can't take this anymore, I was wrong. The truth was that I could and did take it all. I kept surviving. Surviving again and again made me less afraid of myself, of other people, of life. I learned that I'd never be free from pain, but I could be free from the fear of pain, and that was enough. I finally stopped avoiding fires long enough to let myself burn. And what I learned was that I am like that burning bush. The fire of pain won't consume me. I can burn and live. I can live on. I am fireproof. Will you affirm that with me? I am fireproof. Second, she said, I can use pain to become. I am here to keep becoming truer, more beautiful versions of myself, again and again, forever. To be alive is to be in a perpetual state of revolution. Whether I like it or not, pain is the fuel of revolution. Everything I need to become the woman I'm meant to be next is inside my feelings of now. Life is alchemy, and emotions are the fire that turns me to gold. I will continue to become only if I resist extinguishing myself 1,000,000 times a day. If I can sit in the fire of my own feelings, I will keep becoming. She goes on to say, like Buddha, who had to leave his life of comfort to experience all kinds of human suffering before finding enlightenment. Like Moses, who wandered 40 years in the desert before seeking the promised land. She goes on to talk about pain. She says, pain is not tragic, pain is magic. Suffering is tragic. Suffering is what happens when we avoid pain and consequently miss our becoming. This is what I can and must avoid, missing my own evolution because I am too afraid to surrender to the process. Having such little faith in myself that I numb or hide or consume my way out of my fiery feelings again and again. So my goal is to stop abandoning myself and stay. To trust that I am strong enough to handle the pain that is necessary to the process of becoming. Because what scares me a hell of a lot more than pain is living my entire life and missing my becoming. What scares me more than feeling it all is missing it all. She goes on to say, I keep a note stuck to my bathroom mirror. Feel it all. She says, it reminds me that although I began to come back to life 18 years ago, I resurrect myself every day in every moment that I allow myself to feel and become. It is my daily reminder to let myself burn to ashes and rise new. So let us rise. Let's prepare for a time of meditation, to just breathe in, to get still, to get quiet. I'd like to invite up Reverend Brenda Errett to lead us in an Easter meditation.
We invest in a deep and holy breath. There is so much inherent in this moment of life. We have taken in so much truth, so much wisdom, so much evolution. The Easter season comes again and again and again. And each of us moves through this season in our own time, our own soul work, our own sacred evolution. Can we now, right here, right now, embrace this step of the journey? this step, the trials, the tribulations, the crucifixion, the suffering, the deep quiet of tomb time, becoming, and the rolling away of the stone, the big, hard, heavy, impending thoughts that held us captive until this moment. I invite each and every one of us to embrace this step, this moment on our journey. And collectively, individually, together, we move into the silence. We move into the full awareness of the activity of spirit in us, the activity of life in us. Can we surrender in this sacred moment and fully open ourselves, saying, "Here I am. Here I am." I allow the activity of life to move in and through me in the silence. Ever so gently, we rise up. Oh God, create in me a pure heart. A pure heart. I am grateful. And so it is.